25 is after next year, I'm out of it.
The boxing world was left in shock as Gervonta "Tank" Davis dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. After his highly anticipated fight with Lamont Roach Jr., fans were eager to hear his thoughts on the match, his future opponents, and what's next for one of the sport's biggest superstars. But instead, Davis took the post-press conference in a completely unexpected direction. In a moment that sent shockwaves through the sport, he casually announced that he plans to retire.
After our second fight.
You're out of it?
Yeah,
Care to elaborate on that?
out of the sport.
After our second fight. Nah, no, I'm gonna win, bro.
Nah, I could tell you my fights.
But not immediately. Instead, he hinted that 2025 would mark the end of his boxing career. The revelation left reporters stunned, fans scrambling for answers, and the entire boxing community speculating about what this really means. But here's the thing. This announcement felt carefully worded rather than an impulsive decision. Was this a strategic move to drum up publicity and raise his market value? Or is something more personal happening behind the scenes? Could it be that Davis has grown frustrated with boxing politics, or that there's an unseen conflict brewing within his camp? Some believe this retirement talk is just a negotiation tactic, while others suspect he might be genuinely losing his fire for the sport. One thing is clear. This story isn't as simple as it seems. So, let's break it all down. What exactly did Tank say? And what's really driving the shocking announcement?
Why are you retiring?
What changed? What made this shit trash, garbage?
When Tank Davis took the mic after his fight, no one expected a retirement conversation to steal the headlines. With cameras flashing and microphones at his face, he spoke about his performance in the ring before casually dropping a statement that sent social media into a frenzy. He doesn't see himself fighting beyond 2025. He didn't give an exact date, nor did he provide a clear reason why, but his words were enough to spark intense speculation. Immediately, fans and analysts were divided. Was this an emotional statement made in the heat of the moment, or was it a well-thought-out decision? Some supporters believe Tank has accomplished everything he set out to do, and retiring on top would protect his undefeated record and secure his legacy. Others argue that this was a calculated business move, a way to generate buzz and force promoters to offer him the biggest possible fights before he walks away from the sport. But
if you got the opportunity to sign a prospect for GTD, who will be?
Gervonta, something should have happened during this time, because when I saw you at the Frank Martin press conference, it looked like you were like the talks about retirement was not even discussed at this moment, and now it's something you keep on repeating. Is it just because obviously what you've done through boxing since you were a kid and everything? Where's Calvin Ford? Is Calvin Ford and or Leonard Edelby? Usually they're around to.
You think you might be gaining love for it though? You never know.
But not everyone was convinced that this was about money. Some insiders believe Tank's frustration runs much deeper. Could he be fed up with the way boxing is run? The politics, the business side, the constant negotiations? Fighters at his level are often pushed into battles that make the most financial sense rather than the ones that define true greatness. Is Davis feeling trapped by the system, or does he genuinely believe there's nothing left for him to prove? One thing is certain, this wasn't a throwaway comment. It felt deliberate. It felt like it had been on his mind for a while, and that raises the biggest question of all. Is this the beginning of the end, or is there more to the story? But if this was just an offhand remark, why did it feel so calculated? Why now, just as his career is hitting its peak?
A lot of talks about retirement in the first press conference. A couple of weeks ago, that mindset changed, and you said, I want to stay active this year. Is that something you still look forward for the remainder of the year to have at least, if I'm not mistaken, 3 fights?
Yeah, hopefully do you still have a call out at the end of Saturday? Certain call out?
I'll probably hear it.
Okay. Is it one person or a couple?
It's looking like one now.
Okay.
To truly understand the gravity of this announcement, we need to take a step back and look at Tank's career, his challenges, and the bigger picture. Because this decision didn't come out of nowhere, and the clues were there all along. At just 29 years old, Gervonta "Tank" Davis has already carved out a legacy that many fighters could only dream of. He's an undefeated champion, a devastating knockout artist, and one of boxing's biggest stars, capable of selling out arenas and generating massive pay-per-view numbers. His power, speed, and ability to end fights in an instant have drawn comparisons to some of the greatest to ever step into the ring. From his early days as a Floyd Mayweather protege to establishing himself as a dominant force in multiple weight classes. Tank has built an image of an unstoppable warrior. But here's the problem. His resume doesn't tell the full story. Despite his dominance, there's been one persistent criticism that won't go away. He hasn't faced the best of the best in their prime. The name Gervonta Davis is respected, but is it truly feared? That depends on who you ask. While his record is filled with exciting wins, some fans and analysts argue that he's been strategically matched against opponents who didn't pose the biggest threat. Sure, he's beaten big names, Leo Santa Cruz, Jose Pedraza, Ryan Garcia, but how many of those fighters were at their absolute peak when they stepped into the ring with him? Meanwhile, names like Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez continue to circle around him. These aren't just good fighters, they're generational talents, fighters who could define this era of boxing alongside Tank. And
Who have Shakur? What have Shakur done? What have he done in the sport? He haven't done nothing. The young one is looking more better than him.
Who that?
The Keyshawn looking way more better than this. I keep screaming his name. He haven't done nothing. Keyshawn haven't even done nothing. I'ma slap this when I see him.
Why is that, Tank?
I'm gonna really slap this shit out. I see him.
Teofimo?
Yeah.
What you think about Teofimo calling you and Crawford?
I just said what I said.
When you look at like Devin Haney's situation when he went to go sue Ryan Garcia,
Yeah,
like is
bitch.
that do you?
Yeah, bitch.
Okay, cool. So okay, all right. So
Yeah,
you don't.
yet, those matchups have never materialized. Fans want to see Davis tested against someone who is young, hungry, and in their prime, not just against fighters who have already peaked or are moving up in weight. So, if Tank truly sees himself as the king, why leave now? Why step away from boxing when some of the biggest fights of his career are still waiting to happen? Unless, of course, there's another reason. One of the biggest debates surrounding Gervonta Davis isn't just about who he's fought, but where he's fought them. Tank has dominated in the lower weight classes, but some analysts believe his biggest test lies at 140 pounds. He briefly stepped up to junior welterweight to take on Mario Barrios in 2021, and while he secured a TKO victory, it was far from an easy fight. Barrios, who had a significant size advantage, gave Tank problems early on, using his reach and movement to frustrate the Baltimore native. Davis eventually broke him down, showing his trademark power and finishing ability. But the fight raised an important question. Can he truly dominate at 140? Since that fight, Davis has opted to stay in the lightweight, 135 pounds, and super featherweight, 130 pounds, divisions, where he holds a clear size and strength advantage over most of his opponents. And that's where the criticism comes in. Some believe he's staying in the lower weight classes to protect his undefeated record, rather than proving himself against bigger, stronger fighters at 140. The best fighters don't just take the easiest route, they take on the biggest challenges. Fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, and Canelo Alvarez built their legacies by moving up in weight and taking on dangerous opponents. Even Ryan Garcia, a fighter Davis already defeated, has moved up to test himself at 140. So why hasn't Tank done the same? If he truly sees himself as one of the best in the world, why hasn't he moved up to take on the likes of Teofimo Lopez, Regis Prograis, or Subriel Matias? Is it because his team doesn't believe he can dominate at a higher weight? Or is he waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike when the money is right?
Oscar was like, he got to come to 145 so we can do a part 2. 145. Is that something you?
He's not even at 145.
Whoever wants any smoke, come talk to me and we'll make it happen. 144.
Yeah, that's what he said. Catch weight. He said we have to do a catch weight at 145.
But why would it be 145? Why can't it be 140? Bro, if you look at the fight of Gavin versus Ryan and me versus Ryan, it wasn't no difference. Go look at it.
What you think was the main difference? Because people say his power looked crazy at this time.
Go look at it. Yeah. His power didn't look crazy. He only have a hook where he knocked Devin out with. Where he kept hitting with. He kept dropping him with a hook. He never dropped him with nothing else but a hook.
For someone who's been a fighter his entire life, could it really just be about an easier road? Or is Tank's decision about something even bigger? Because if it's not about money or competition, then what's really behind this retirement talk? And that brings us to the next question. Who is really pulling the strings in Tank Davis's career? For years, Gervonta Davis was seen as the next big thing in boxing, handpicked by none other than Floyd Mayweather himself. With Mayweather Promotions guiding his career, Tank was marketed as the heir to Floyd's throne, a flashy, undefeated fighter with knockout power and superstar potential. But while Tank's career flourished financially, it didn't take long for boxing purists to start asking an uncomfortable question. Was Mayweather actually holding him back? Floyd Mayweather built his own legacy by taking on tough fights, jumping weight classes, and proving himself against elite competition. But as a promoter, his approach with Davis seemed different. Instead of rushing Tank into dangerous matchups, Floyd carefully curated his fights, ensuring that every opponent was either stylistically favorable or strategically timed. It was a classic Mayweather business move: maximize earnings, minimize risk. And while it made sense from a financial standpoint, many believe it also delayed Tank from achieving true greatness. The tension between the two began to show over the years. Tank, who once praised Floyd as a mentor, started to express frustration with his management. There were whispers of disagreements behind the scenes, with Davis reportedly unhappy about how his career was being handled.
I was in a lose-lose situation. Now, what came out still on top? With Floyd? What was the lose-lose situation? What you mean? This situation that he put me in to, make me lose. But he thought I was gonna lose. But.
You talking about like boxing, man?
He wanted the big fights. He wanted the challenges. But Mayweather Promotions seemed to be playing it safe, prioritizing pay-per-view buys over true legacy-defining moments. And then, Tank made a move that shocked everyone. He left Mayweather Promotions. Now, as a free agent, Davis has the power to take his career in any direction he chooses. But with that freedom comes a harsh reality. Is he realizing that he spent too much time being protected? Did Mayweather's influence steer him away from fights that could have solidified his legacy earlier? If so, is this why he's suddenly talking about retirement? Because if he now sees the time he lost under Floyd's guidance.
Sure. Yeah, boxing match.
Ooh, if you don't mind. If you don't want to, it's fine.
Joseph Pedraza, my first world title. I was 16-0. I was 16-0. 16-0, and I was 21.
He may feel that the window for defining his greatness is closing. But if you thought this was just about boxing, think again. There's another layer to this story, one that has nothing to do with weight classes, promoters, or legacy. It has to do with something far more personal: the pressure of fame, the dark side of success, and the toll it's taken on Tank Davis outside the ring. Gervonta Davis may be undefeated in the ring, but outside of it, his battles have been far more complicated. Over the years, Tank has faced multiple legal troubles, arrests, and controversies, painting a picture of a fighter who hasn't always been in control of his own life.
Well, let me ask you this. I was just talking to her. What if she told me that you beat the piss out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that as...
but don't you know...
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
You just talking to her, though.
Yes.
With the information that she gave you, can she tell you?
From domestic violence allegations to public altercations and reckless driving incidents, his name has been in the headlines for reasons far beyond boxing. Some fans have brushed these issues off as the typical troubles of a young superstar with money and fame. But others see a deeper pattern, a fighter struggling to handle the pressure of being in the spotlight. We've seen this before. Fighters like Adrian Broner were once on the same trajectory. Undefeated, flashy, and full of promise. But over time, personal demons, legal issues, and lack of discipline derailed their careers. Could Tank be sensing a similar fate? Could this talk of retirement actually be a warning sign that he's feeling burned out, exhausted, or even trapped by the life he's built? The expectations on his shoulders are massive. He's not just fighting opponents, he's fighting the demands of fame, wealth, and an audience that always wants more. The constant training, the pressure to remain undefeated, the scrutiny of the media, and the never-ending demand to be the perfect fighter, the perfect superstar, the perfect brand. It's a heavy burden, and for some, it becomes too much to bear. So when Tank Davis says he plans to retire after 2025, could he really be saying something else? Could he be signaling that he's reaching a breaking point? And just when you think you've figured it all out, there's another major reason retirement might be on his mind, a reason that has to do with his very identity as a fighter. Some fighters are simply built differently. They don't just fight for money, championships, or fame. They fight because they need to. It's in their blood, their DNA. They are predators. They crave the hunt, the thrill of stepping into the ring knowing that they are going up against the best. Pushing themselves beyond their limits and proving their dominance against true warriors. Gervonta Davis, by all accounts, is one of those fighters. His entire life has been shaped by a hunger to prove himself. He came from the streets of Baltimore, where fighting wasn't just a sport, it was survival. His raw power, his knockout ability, and his ferocity in the ring have always given him an aura of invincibility. But for a fighter like Tank, dominance alone isn't enough. What happens when the challenges stop feeling like real challenges? Look at boxing's biggest legends, fighters like Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, and Canelo Alvarez. These men built their legacies on risk. They sought out the toughest competition, moving up in weight, facing bigger and stronger opponents, and taking fights that the world said they couldn't win, because that's what true warriors do. But has Tank been getting those fights, or has he been stuck in a cycle of predictable victories?
Tank is afraid of Shakur.
Afraid of what? Afraid of what? Us fighters, if we're afraid of something, it gotta be somebody hitting us and hurting us. Like, he don't have no offense. Everything is defense. Defense only win in basketball and football. That shit win in boxing.
Waiting for the moment when a true test finally arrives, when a predator stops hunting, when he no longer has prey worthy of his skill, he loses his purpose. If Tank is feeling that, if he's looking around and seeing nothing but smaller fights, political obstacles, and promoters protecting their investments, then maybe this sudden talk of retirement isn't about stepping away from the sport entirely. Maybe it's about walking away before he loses himself. Because if a fighter like Tank isn't motivated, if he doesn't feel like he has something to chase, then every training camp, every press conference, and every step into the ring starts to feel meaningless. And if that's the case, then his final fights before retirement could tell us everything.
Do you think his demeanor gonna change if he get in front of you?
Yeah, because they all push. They all push. You see what Keyshawn said when I said what I said on Twitter and try to provoke him. He don't like when people call him what I call him. To provoke him to do something. He ain't come with that same energy. He called me a crybaby because I'm light-skinned. Yeah, I bet.
If Tank Davis is truly serious about retiring after 2025, then the clock is ticking. He has a limited window to cement his legacy, to answer the questions that have followed him throughout his career, and to silence the critics once and for all. So the real question is, who does he fight next? The names Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez are at the top of every fan's list. These aren't just good fighters, they are the best of his generation. If Tank walks away without facing them, does his legacy take a hit? Absolutely. It would leave a massive what if hanging over his career, an unanswered question about whether he was truly the best of his era or just the most carefully managed.
Keyshawn should fight for the right to fight you?
You know what?
Do you think Shakur and Keyshawn should fight for the right?
If he wants to go out as one of the greats, he has to take those fights. A win against Stevenson would solidify his dominance. A war with Haney could prove that he's more than just power. A battle with Lopez would be a legacy-defining showdown. But if he retires without facing them, the story changes. He'll still be an all-time great, but there will always be an asterisk. There will always be that lingering doubt. And maybe that's why this announcement feels so complicated. Maybe Tank himself doesn't even know what he truly wants yet. Retirement might seem like an escape, but deep down, he knows what's at stake. He knows what's unfinished. He knows that history only remembers those who took the biggest risks. Retirement might sound like an ending, but for Tank Davis, it could be his last chance to make history. Okay guys, for the best updates on boxing news, moments, events, and actions, subscribe to Knockout Updates and turn on notifications to never miss out on quality content, and check out our other videos. Until next time, peace out.